I would like to begin by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the land on which we meet today, the Arakwal people of the Bundjalung Nation, and pay my respects to the elders past, present, and emerging. Are you ready to win at the game of life? Well, throw out that rulebook and get down to the business of being the best and most authentic version of you. Welcome to the Human Design Podcast. We're changing the rules around success, abundance, purpose, love, and life, where we're creating a planet where everyone can thrive in a world that loves and supports each other. I'm your host, Emma Dunwoody, a qualified master coach, human design expert, podcaster, and entrepreneur that is living the life of my dreams, breaking all the rules while doing it, making a huge impact, and living my design and manifesting miracles on the daily. Join me as I break down and simplify everything you need to live in alignment with your human design, teach you how to recondition your unconscious mind for greatness, and to take back your power so you can manifest your heaven on earth and serve the rest of the planet at the same time. It's time to give up the fear and step into your highest potential, to reach for the stars, to know and live your greatness. It's what you deserve, and it's what the planet really needs from you. So buckle up and enjoy the ride. Hey, and welcome to today's episode. Well, today I have someone awesome for you. Someone who you've heard me banging on about, especially if you're in HDX, you've heard me banging on about this person because I have done quite a bit of hypnosis in the last few months. And I'm super excited to introduce you all to Michelle Boyde.
Hello,
Welcome.
thanks for having me on. It's an absolute pleasure.
Oh, I'm so excited. Like every time you speak, I'm like, I just want to listen. You have like a magical voice. Of course you ended up doing hypnosis because I don't know, you're just the most addictive person to listen to.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. And I love that we're doing this with you on the other side of the world and me in Mallorca, and we're both away from Byron Bay at the moment.
Yeah, I know, right? We're taking on the world, adventures. And for those people playing along at home, Michelle is a 2/4 emotional projector. She's a cross of planning, like me. We actually have quite similar charts. And I suppose today I really just want to start to dive into hypnosis. For me personally, I did a lot of this in my training when I was becoming a coach. And at first, I really was kind of like, I didn't put much faith in it for me. I could see how it worked for everybody else. And I think I might have even said to you in the beginning, I'm like, I find it real, like, people can't hypnotize me. Like, it doesn't work for me. And the thing that's really fascinating is I actually have the 43 in my core wound and the shadow is deafness. And I'm like, yeah, that, right? But then when we started working together, I think it was like 3 seconds into the first session and I'm like, I'm out, you know? So let's start at the beginning. Let's start at the beginning about you and your story. When you first started on this journey, you've heard me ask this question a bunch of times, like the dark night of the soul, the challenge, that part of you that's like, yep, all right, I'm going to choose a new path. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that from that moment till, you know, the version of you that's sitting in front of me today?
Yeah, totally. I mean, for me, I did what a lot of people did. I went off to uni, I got a degree, I started my career and kind of worked my way up. And I was a consultant for almost 15 years. And I kind of reached that point where I was really, I wasn't happy. I felt I was burnt out, stressed, overworked, classic, projector trying to do 40, 60 hours a week. I felt like I was putting together, all of these, clever strategies and whatever else that weren't getting implemented. I wasn't having any impact. And I just had that sense of like, there has to be something else. And so I basically kind of planned my exit. And when I left, I had no idea what I was going to do next, but I just knew that I wasn't happy with the concept of work that I had signed up for. And like, there had to be a better way of doing things. And I was going to work that out.
And
And
did you know that you're a projector at that point?
I didn't. So I didn't
I
know for
love
the
that.
first 2 years of my business. And the first 2 years of my business, I did that classic thing where I tried to run it like a generator. And then I heard about my design and I was like, oh my God, this makes so much sense. And this is such a relief. And then went through that process of really trying to change everything to run it like a projector. And
Mm,
I know when you hear all that stuff about, you don't have to work more to be successful, that you get to be efficient and all of that, those sort of things. You don't think it's possible, but it does work
Mm.
for us.
Oh my
Um,
God, I just want to jump in because instantly, like if I was a projector, the question I'd want to ask is like, well, what does that actually look like? So, you know, you said something like setting up a business or running a business as a projector. So what does that look like? How is that specifically different to perhaps how I would be running a business?
Yeah, so one of the things that I found really important, and I've also got an emotional authority as well, is spaciousness. So I need to create enough spaciousness in the way that I structure my time, that kind of when I'm on the top of that wave and I'm firing on all cylinders and I'm kind of in Wonder Woman mode, I can utilize it. But when I'm on the bottom of that wave and actually I'm not in a position to support my clients to the best of my ability, and I'm not going to produce great content and I'm not making my best decisions, that I've got the space to go, you know what, I'm going to honor my body. And this is when I'm going to rest. This is when I'm going to play, and do that. So that's been a big part of it. And I'd also say, and it's such a simple thing, but this kind of idea of creating a content schedule and pumping out content, I can't do that. And I don't guide, and my wisdom doesn't come out when I approach it like that. But if in the moment something's there and I pick my phone up, that's
Mm.
when that's when the gold comes out. So even if I don't have any makeup on, even if I'm not in the best background, they're the moment to jump on Instagram or to write an email to my list. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a big part of it.
Yeah, I love that. And because I think we are coming off the back of this era of everything having to be perfect and polished. Because it's so funny, like even for me, I mean, I'm sitting here recording this podcast in a hotel room on my iPad with no makeup on. And there's been a part of me for so many years that would be like, well, Emma, that's not doing it properly. How are you ever going to succeed if you're going to be half-assed about it? And the thing that I've learned over the last few years is I'm not being half-assed, I'm being authentic, like
Mm.
I actually want a business that, like you said, when I'm feeling inspired, I'm going to jump on Instagram or I'm going to do the thing, without having to get all the makeup on and get the scripting right. And I really think that this is the game changer for business right now. I think that ultimately we'll look back and we'll see that this was the beginning of people choosing an authentic person to work with over the polished person.
Yeah, I agree. And I also think it's throwing out all the stuff that you think you have to do. And my other recommendation to, I guess, any business owner, but particularly projectors, is to audit regularly what feels heavy, what doesn't feel easy. Like, we are meant to see efficiencies. How do I do this more efficiently? And like a good example of that is, I don't actually like writing emails to my email list. I find it
Yeah.
heavy. It takes me time. The power is in my voice. So about, I don't know, 8 weeks ago, I just like, I'm not going to do it. I'm going to send audio emails, because I literally pick the phone up. I talk into it for 5 minutes. The program I use has a limit, so I never go over 5 minutes. And then I just shove the link in an email with a few words and off it goes. It now takes me 15 minutes to send something out. And it's much more useful and impactful than when I would sit there and try out an email. So
Yeah.
just get rid of the stuff that feels heavy, because most of it you don't actually have to do.
Oh my God, I love that so much.
Mm.
And before we get on to hypnosis,
Mm.
I will just want to stay with this projector business thing a bit because I think there's a lot of listeners that really will benefit from that. And I know that you have, consciously been shifting all the pieces, almost like all the generator pieces out of the business and really bringing all the projector pieces into the business. So if there's a projector out there listening, maybe they've already started their business or maybe they're beginning it, what would be like 3 things that you would recommend to start doing? And what are the 3 things you recommend they stop doing?
Yeah. So one of the things I would ask yourself is, how do you want to guide? Because I think we have this perception of what people will pay for. And actually, there are so many different ways that you can guide, that you can support people, that you can share your wisdom. It doesn't have to be an online course. It doesn't have to be a membership. It doesn't have to be in a one-on-one session over Zoom or something like that. There are so many ways to imagine it. So I would ask yourself that question of how do you want to be paid? The other thing is I would say, don't guide for free. Your wisdom is what's important. So recognize that in yourself, and that you are there to be compensated for that. And I actually had my business mentor, who is also a projector. She said to me, even if let's say I'm doing a session for you and you're doing a session for me, and they both are $500, we should go through the process of actually paying each other $500.
I agree.
Accounts, because of the effect that has on the mechanics of our aura. That's really important. So yeah, making sure that you are recognized financially for the work you do, because we're so good at just guiding everybody around ourselves for free. So
Yeah.
that's the things I would definitely say to do. And the other one is to create an environment where you feel recognized, because you know what it's like when we don't feel like we're being recognized by clients or prospective clients, or the audience on Instagram that we feel is not there and listening to us. Then we become almost a bit, what would I say, slutty with our desire for recognition. And
Yeah.
so, if we can find people that satisfy that recognition, it means that we're not looking for it and seeking others for it. So whether that's, surrounding yourself with other entrepreneurs, with friends, but people that recognize your value. I'd say they're three really, really good things to do. Stop thinking you've got to do more all the time.
Yep.
And find the efficient, because it's we're there to see efficiencies, right? So find the efficiencies and apply the efficiencies in your business. Stop following anyone who's teaching you this is my 5-step process to 10K months, or that kind of stuff.
That's good advice for everybody.
And I think the other thing, and I do think this applies to everyone, especially as we move towards 2027, is individualization. Your business is your own personal manifestation of what you want. So it is all about personalization, and just keep asking yourself, how do I want to do this? Because I do think that when we are running our business what's best for us, we serve our clients in a much, much better way than trying to do it how we think it's expected.
Yeah, I love that. And I think a lot of that advice almost can be expanded out into, the other types, but just, filtering what's important to them. And I love what you said at the end, our business really is ultimately an extension of ourselves, especially this sort of business, And I think that the thing that I cannot stress enough is all successful people back themselves. Like, that's it, the end. You want to succeed, then back yourself. And it's so much easier to back yourself if you're creating something that's in alignment, that gives you energy, that you love to do. The challenge is always going to be when you compare yourself to others, when you're like, well, I'm doing this, but they're not doing that, or they're doing that and I'm not doing it. We've got to stop that, because the more unique you can be, or the more aligned to you can be, that's where the success lies, because it's so much easier just to back yourself, because you're like, well, it feels correct for me. I had this experience recently where, just hearing someone that had a huge business talk about their business and their conversions and all of this sort of stuff, and comparing, or not comparing, but just thinking about my business through the same frame. And I'm like, wow, my business is doing so much better on the numbers. Why? Because I'm doing it in alignment with my design, So, this person has huge potential as long as they align to their design. So, yeah, I just think everything you said was gold. Thank you.
Oh, good.
So let's talk about hypnosis. It's not new anymore. I know that it's something that we're super aware of, especially in the spiritual and personal development world. I'd love to kind of start at the beginning, and the beginning for me is really understanding what is it specifically, like why specifically would we choose something like hypnosis? Because I know for me personally, when I was trying to heal my mental health, I tried hypnosis. And again, in hindsight, I think it's partially my 43. I didn't trust the person that was doing the hypnosis. I think, I was shutting myself down. But I remember all the way back then, I was like, it just gets this big rap, like it's this fix all. And that wasn't my experience. So can we kind of talk about the power of hypnosis and how is it going to work best for us if we are going to go down that road?
Yeah, definitely. So what I would say, just as a general framing of it, is that, and possibly I shouldn't say this as a master hypnotist, but it's not the silver bullet, but it's an incredible thing to add into the mix. And so the analogy I'd give you is, when you're at the airport and you're heading down to one of the departure gates, you've got those long corridors and they've got the flat escalators that you can get on,
Yep.
So kind of walking along to the departure gate on the ground is like doing your goal without hypnosis. But if you get onto the moving walkway and you keep walking, you get there so much faster. So I call it the ultimate goal accelerator because it gets you there quicker. But it's not a passive activity because you still get on that escalator and you keep walking. And that's how you pick up the speed. If you get onto that flat escalator and you just stop dead, then you don't get there any faster. And so, if you are someone who's taking actions, imperfect action, something that, you say that absolutely resonates with me. And I'll talk in a minute why that resonates with me, actually. But if you're that person, it's going to help you get there so much quicker. But if you're going to sort of sit back and be like, just do it to me and some magic is going to happen, it doesn't work quite like that. So kind of the framing for it. But, the way that I would talk about it, and there's a couple of ways I can, is, and I know a lot of people that listen to your podcast are trained as coaches and NLP. So we're kind of familiar with, 4% conscious mind, 96% unconscious mind. It's just that any time that we come up with a new goal, a new vision, something we want to do differently to how we do it now, we design that with our conscious mind in that 4%. And yet all the programming is sitting in the 96%, which is exactly what you need to live your life right now. It's not got all the components of the new idea that you have. And so what it feels is that it's holding you. It's like a bit of an anchor, and that's why we feel stuck. Essentially, with hypnosis, what we're doing is we're changing the programming. So then rather than you having this tension, it actually starts to push and create that momentum behind what you're doing at a conscious level. So it kind of compounds the conscious effort. But what I would say about hypnosis is that one of the challenges that I think we generally have in the personal development world is that we are too much about learning information, understanding concepts, and you'll know you're this person if you're listening to this and you've had coaches, you've done online courses, you listen to podcasts, you do so much, but you're all up in the concept in your head and your life doesn't change, right?
Yep. Oh my goodness. I feel like there's potentially a lot of people listening that might resonate with this.
Like that is, and that's actually the problem with the personal development world is we feel like we're taking action, but we're actually just sabotaging ourselves by just learning more rather than doing stuff.
Could not agree more. Like we have to get the knowledge and the information into the body and be taking action.
And yeah, exactly. And this is my next point is I feel like our definition of embodiment in the coaching world is a little bit too limited. And I know that, we both live in Byron and you can find an embodiment workshop any night of the week, and any cafe has every third person is an embodiment coach. And, a lot of those workshops and things that you'll go to, it's very much about getting you into your body and, it's breathing and it's movement. And that's brilliant, right? It gets you out your head. It allows you to have that departure from your thoughts for a bit, to process emotions in the body. But I don't feel it's complete enough because what I feel it's missing is the action taking part based on the knowledge that you've acquired. So
Yep.
for me, embodiment is actually taking a concept that you understand and running it through your body. And the example I'd give of this, I think it's a great example, is surfing. So it's actually easy to understand how to surf. Like the theory of surfing is not very difficult. Like where to sit yourself on a wave, what you're meant to do with your arms and legs when you catch the wave, how you pop up, right? In
Yeah, it
theory,
all seems simple when you're like learning. Yeah.
yeah. And we both know this as sort of beginner surfers. But the
Yeah.
reality is you can learn all the surf theory you want. You are not a surfer unless you get out in those waves with a surfboard and you take that knowledge and you do something with your body.
Yeah.
And so this is what embodiment is for me. And this is the only way we create change. And the link to this with hypnosis is the subconscious mind is the body. And so it's another way for us to take concepts, behaviors that we understand, we know we need to do, and actually start using them at a body level. So we start creating change. So that's one of the reasons it's powerful.
Oh my God, I love that. Ugh. Um, and yeah, because I know when I, worked with you and when you're back in Byron, if you're back in Byron,
I will be.
I definitely want to do more, like, because I found significant changes, that blending of the both. I was working on something very specific, doing the hypnosis was supporting that. Yeah, and I love that metaphor. It's that surfing piece. Like I was metaphorically taking the surfboard out into the waves in between the sessions we were having. That's so cool. So let's understand, how does hypnosis work? So just walk us through the whole process of getting getting access to the subconscious mind and creating changes in the programming.
Yeah. So, I mean, when I describe it this way, it makes it sound so less sexy than when people hear you're a hypnotist. But it's really a process, right? It's a process to slow your brainwaves into a certain brainwave state, which is the theta brainwave state. So we've got 5 brainwave states. As we sit here and we're focused outward on each other, we're in beta. If you sit in meditation, you're in alpha. And then the hypnotic state is one slower than that, which is theta. And then below that, you've got delta. So what I'm essentially doing is primarily with my voice. I don't actually need to see you or touch you. There are things I can do if I can touch you, but I'm just with my voice guiding your brainwaves to slow down until you are in that specific brainwave state. And there's some beautiful qualities to that state. So what we have in the other brainwave states is that door to the conscious and subconscious mind. We have something standing in it called a critical faculty. And it's a bit like a bouncer at a nightclub. So you know how like if you show up and you're not wearing the right thing and they don't like the look of you, they bat you away. And that critical faculty does the same thing when something is suggested to us that kind of doesn't fit with like our frame or map of the world. But in hypnosis, the critical faculty is gone. So that door to the subconscious mind is wide open. So what we're able to do is we're able to slide in suggestions for the beliefs and the behaviors that will support the thing you want. So whatever you want to start doing, do differently. So that's really what we're doing.
Oh my God, I love that. And okay, let's say someone is like, well, I've been working on my money blocks forever. How specifically putting together this whole surfing metaphor and, going through the hypnosis and batting away the critical faculty so that you can actually get in there and reprogram your abundance mindset, let's say. How would a client actually, like, what's the process look like if they're working with you and they're obviously having to embody things externally as well?
So there's 2 things I would say that I think are critical here. So the first one is to get the change. You're almost doing this like dovetailing action, whereby we're putting in better beliefs and suggestions at a subconscious level, and then you take some behaviors which compounds them, and that deepens them, and you take more behaviors until you get to this point. And I'm running out of space for the microphone. But where the 2 kind of become one, and it doesn't become something that you're no longer consciously working on. It's just sitting there in your subconscious mind. So it's identifying what are actual behaviors that I can take that will start to become proof to my subconscious mind that this belief is real. And this is why, if you're sitting here and you're earning $1,000 in your business, you don't sit there and say stuff around, I'm running $1 million business, because your subconscious mind goes, bullshit. because it's like there's no evidence for that. So that's one thing. But the other thing is that a lot of the time people aren't working with the correct belief. And this is where the power of working with someone else really helps, because what happens is that anyone who's been in the personal development world for a while, they've got a whole list. They know their limiting beliefs. Yeah. They've got a whole list of their money beliefs and their self-worth beliefs and whatever they are, right? Big old list. And they've been working on these beliefs for ages. And the thing is, they know it's a belief. So yes, they say it, they know, they kind of think about it, but they know it's a belief. What we're actually looking for are the beliefs that we believe are facts.
Yes.
Not our beliefs. And these ones are so much more embedded that when we're doing our whole, all these are my limiting beliefs, and we're just, we're starting to excavate, we don't get that deep. We don't even think of it because it's a fact. And the way that it's one of these beliefs that you think is a fact is because when somebody challenges you on it, you will dig your heels in. You can be almost like, you stamp your feet. You say things like, you just don't understand, or that's not how it works in my world, or you're not being realistic. All of these things come out. And there's a bigger impact of this. And I want to give you a tangible example, like to make this real. So I've worked with a lot of construction companies the last 15 years. I don't know, it just seemed to be one of the industries as a consultant I found myself in. So a lot of the big ones in Australia I've worked with. And I was sitting with some of the executive directors of a particular construction firm in Australia, and we were having a conversation about mental health and stress in construction. And this particular executive turned around to me and he said, construction is the most stressful industry. Now, that's not a fact, that's a belief. If you talk to lawyers, dentists, they tell you that they're the most stressful industries. All we know is there's lots of people who are very stressed on an ongoing basis in lots of industries and lots of businesses. Yeah?
Correct.
But here is the problem with this belief being a fact, is that it predisposes that there will always be stress present in construction. Because if it's the most stressful industry, it's always there. Okay? So then if I'm there as an exec and I'm going, how do I want to invest my budget, my focus, my energy, my resources? You wouldn't try to solve a problem that's always going to be there. And so you start to look at what are the interventions, and then we see this across pretty much all the businesses across the globe, is that in response to stress and mental health, we've now got, mental health first aiders. We've got EAP programs, that you call up once you're already really stressed. We might have some meditation in the business, or we might have a mental health day. These are sticky plasters. They are not solutions. If you actually thought we could solve stress, if you didn't believe that it was just a fundamental part of the industry you were in, you'd go over here and you'd redesign work. You'd actually look at what we do in business is fundamentally not working. And that's the belief I hold, and that's the stance point that I come with my clients, is that we actually can do it. You can thrive. You don't have to be stressed to run a business or to have a successful career. And so this is the problem, is that when you have one of these beliefs that are facts, is it even stops what you can creatively think of. It limits your innovation. It's like you don't even come up with a better solution to your money blocks or to how you could make money, because you get stuck in this world where you cannot see beyond that fact.
Oh my God, I love that. And so well explained. Like, you're a rock star. I love it. One of the things that I always get my clients to do when they're feeling stuck and around work and around making money in the business or whatever, and I'm like, well, what else could you do to make money? And it's the hardest thing for them, because they're thinking through this frame of, what else do I want to do for money? And I'm like, no. What else could you do for money? Because not that they're going to go and work in, the local servo, but I'm like, write it on the list, because it expands their view of the world. All of a sudden, the things that were impossible gets the brain going, oh, hang on a second. There are all these other options, and maybe I'm not just stuck doing this one thing. And I love that. I think, like what you just shared, it's that piece of, we get so attached to these things, these beliefs that we really think are facts.
Yeah.
How do we know how do we know that we have a fact belief that's blocking us? Because what you said about the list of beliefs, of money blocks, blah, blah, oh my goodness, like I see this all the time. And one of the things I remember learning in my training, and one of the things I'm really conscious with my clients, is you have to find the language of your subconscious mind. So it's all well and good to go, well, I'm not enough. But if that's not what your inner child programmed, then it's irrelevant. You have to find your own language. So how do we become aware of these unconscious facts that actually are beliefs that we do have the capacity to change?
Yeah, I mean, it's actually having a look at, I mean, it's trying to give you a process for, something that is much easier to do with somebody, but you're really looking at those parts of the world that you have cemented in, and anything that you really wouldn't be challenged on, something that you would almost, if I said to you the sky is blue, other things that you would line up on that list as just like the sky is blue. But your language, of course, gives you away. So it's through your language, is ultimately, it's through the conversation and the excavation and the right questions is where you ultimately get to a place where you can start to see these things. But I would also say, like, overlaying your human design is powerful as well. When I first started training in human design, I wasn't yet bringing it actively into the business. Clients didn't know that I was looking at their design, but I was just cross-referencing what have they come to me for and what's in their design. And it would always relate to their core wound. It would always relate to the gates in their incarnation cross. The clues were in there as well. And that was the point where I went, okay, I now need to actively bring this in with the hypnosis, because the two together are really powerful. So there's hints in there as well. Yeah, there definitely is. I was going to say, I mean, I talk about beliefs as the parameters of your potential. And so,
oh, I love that. The
they are,
parameters of your potential.
yeah, I feel like I need to trademark that.
Yes, you should.
Think
It's
about,
Michelle Boyde.
that's mine. Is, if you think about, you've got a house and you've got a garden and you've got a fence around that garden. That's like your beliefs, because all it does, and this is the thing, all a belief tells you is at present what is in scope for you and what is out of scope for you. It's like, this is the space you get to play in. And if you can move those beliefs, that fence out just slightly, there's a bit more space to play in, where you find other resources. You might meet other people. There's other things happen. And, if you take someone like Elon Musk, his fence is like, my arm's going right out here. Like, they're way out, because the things that he can dream up and he thinks are possible, he has access to so much more of his potential. So yeah, they're really just the parameters of our potential. And that's why everything is possible for everyone if you do play with your beliefs.
Yeah, I love that. And as you were talking about Elon Musk and his potential, it made me wonder, like, one of the things that I noticed for me personally on my journey is that wherever I was expanding my comfort zone, so wherever I was doing the things I thought I couldn't do, those times were also my hugest growth, my best healing, because it was almost like there was this perception that even though I might have been working on my money stuff, if I'm over here, pushing the boundaries on something else, it made the money stuff easier. Is that true, or did I just make that up?
You're just providing yourself with more evidence that you can get better, or that you can get closer to your goals. And if you can do it in one area, there's no reason why you can't do it in another area.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
That's definitely how it feels for me. Like, it's all, I'm always saying to my clients, like, you need to give your brain the evidence. Once you give the brain the evidence, then, it's easier from there. So you've mentioned a couple of times the importance of working with someone. I definitely have this habit. I'm not going to judge either way. And an energy type that over the years, I've done so much of this on my own.
Yeah.
Not because necessarily I choose to, just because I hadn't found great practitioners, or I hadn't found great mentors to stick with. But tell us how important it is to actually be working with a practitioner when we're trying to access and change the subconscious mind?
I mean, the key thing I'd say is that we've all got blind spots. So all the stuff we need is in the blind spot. I mean, I feel as a projector, my blind spot is massive. I mean, I can't see myself at all. I can see other people, but I can't see myself. And I mean, I don't want to discourage someone. If you are in a place in your life where you haven't got the money to invest in working with someone, it doesn't mean you can't change stuff. You can totally go out there.
I'm proof of that.
With some willpower, take some actions, try some stuff, do some stuff, find ways to prove to yourself that, you know what, I can do the thing that I want to do. Absolutely. But just like anything else, you know, if you're trying to get fit and you're trying to get, I don't know, a tight bum, and you can do a whole bunch of research, right? And you can probably get your bum to a pretty good point, but you probably just get there quicker and easier if you hired a personal trainer who was like, this is exactly what you need to get a tight bum. So it's just that thing. Different people have expertise and can help you get there quicker, really.
Yeah, I also think one of the really powerful things of working with someone is that, you know, a good coach, a good practitioner, they see and hear the things that you don't, you know. So I think that's what's so powerful is it's the subconscious piece. It's the things that you are unconscious to or that are so hidden that when you do this work on your own, you go through these processes until one day it kind of slaps you in the face and you're like, oh my God, like this has been sitting here all that time. Whereas a practitioner is kind of like, oh, what about this thing, this big elephant in the room? Like it's right here, sitting here, but you don't see it because of your programming or because of your identity.
Yeah. The other thing I'd say as well is that we have such a desire to understand what's wrong with us or understand how we're changing. And actually, you often don't need to understand. You know, I have some clients who are very interested in the process and they want to understand what I did and then they want to talk about it. And I have some clients who just come in and just lay down, you know, they're like, just hypnotize me. And the people that know about it don't get better results for anything that they know about the process. It's not required. There's actually a lot that can just happen if you just trust and throw yourself in.
Yeah, I love that. I think there was at one point I asked you something about the process and you just went, nope. Like, I'm not telling you, because otherwise my brain would have been like, oh, you know, like, and then this.
Yeah. And you undo the change at that point because you start lighting up the old neural pathways for the old story that you're telling yourself. So it's not useful at all.
Yeah, I remember in my NLP training, and it's so funny because I haven't used a lot of these things for a long time. And at my last Byron retreat, one of the women said, hey, you know how you used to do all those phobia busts that you talk about? Do you reckon you could do one on me? And I'm like, okay. Like I haven't done it for ages. And from all reports, it worked. But, oh my God, I don't even know where I was going with that.
We were chatting about you don't have to know stuff.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think what is like one of the things that I learning NLP is this power of that old thing, you know? Yeah. I think the language that we use when we're going through these processes is once the problem, in inverted commas, is identified, we don't talk about the problem anymore. We talk about that old thing because we're literally, you know, encouraging the subconscious mind to let it go, to let it go, to let it go. And I actually feel that potentially in the personal development world, people are so obsessed with their shadow and their old habits and their unresourceful beliefs and all of these things. And, you know, I'm forever banging on like what you focus on matters. So do not focus on your shadow. When it comes up, you need to heal it. You need to work on it. Do it, then move the fuck on because it's not serving you to keep going back there.
Yeah, I never want to talk about someone's limiting beliefs. I actually dislike the expression limiting beliefs. I just, there's too many people own it. The other thing as well, I think that it is useful, and I see this a lot with, you know, I do a lot of work with people who want to leave 9 to 5 in corporate and completely reimagine what does work look like? What does my career, what could a business look like? And the starting point of that is actually looking at your desire blueprint. It's because most people can tell you what they don't want. They can't tell you what they do want. And if they tell you what they do want, it's in whole levels of vagueness that their subconscious mind can't really get behind because they can't get their hands around it, and there's no tangible action. And actually investing in really understanding like what you genuinely want, not the one of you, the conditioned version of you with all the programming of what you think you want, but what you in your most authentic self want. Because when you do that, when you really activate the heart, you know, the power behind that heart to propel you forward and make that happen. And I believe whether you have a defined will center or not, you know, the heart has that power to propel you much more than the head. You know,
100%.
we all know this. If you've ever, you know, really loved somebody, you'll go to the ends of the earth for that person. Like, you know, you will do anything for that person, for something you love. So it's very powerful. So like, what do you really want? Like, what do you really want?
I love that. And we've just been to see Greg Braden last weekend, and he's a massive, I mean, he's been using the heart math stuff for a really long time. So every time you sit in a room with him or do any of his learnings, you're doing these, you know, back into my heart, you know, asking your heart. And it's so incredibly powerful, you know, like imagine if we all shifted from what we don't want, focusing on the things that we perceive are broken. By the way, nothing's broken, people. And we just focused on that heart, you know, like it would be a completely different world. And when people come to you, because I know this is definitely something that I've been challenged with in the past, when people come to you and you ask them, okay, well, what do you want? How do you guide them through that process? Because most of the time people are like, well, I can give you this massive list of what they don't want, but getting those pieces out of what they do want, that can be more challenging. So how do you help people with that?
So there's a few things. So some of it is removing some of that conditioning and that programming so they can see beneath that, because it's almost like it's a murky water and they can't see through it. So there's a process of breaking that part down. There's a process of taking them into a more creative state. The hypnotic state is a very creative space, and learning to get below. What you find people do is when they brainstorm an idea or they answer a question, they're actually answering a lot of it from the conscious mind initially. And then there's a place where you'll get a real pause. For most people, it's pretty uncomfortable. This is where they give up, unless they're being guided and forced in a loving way to into actually what the subconscious wants. And I also work with various frameworks. So if we're actually going, what do you really want in your career and your business? I've got the frameworks that satisfy the conscious mind and then the hypnotic elements. And there's also activating the heart, to your point. I do multiple brain integration. And most people are, they're up in their head brain and they're in their enteric brain, which is the gut brain, and they're looping in those. The heart brain is just very quiet. So it's an awakening process of getting that cardiac brain kind of back online and speaking its truth, rather than sitting in the back because it's been told to kind of stay quiet for the most of our lives usually.
Yeah, wow. Okay, so MG moment, something just dawned on me. And when I say MG moment, for those of you that don't know what I'm talking about, Taylor and I talk about this all the time. We'll be talking about something, blah, 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 and then all of a sudden we have an idea or a question that is completely unrelated. So MG moment. It actually takes me back to the beginning when you first started telling your story. Because there is one of the things that I'm very conscious of the more I teach business. I'm very aware that people have this model of like, I'm in corporate and then I just jump and I just go and do my business. And some people can. I was one of those people. I mean, I didn't have a big corporate job when I started my business. I did transition out of advertising. However, I had a child for a few months in between that. And in hindsight, as a manifesting generator, I realized that I had this energy to do what I needed to do to get the income started. One of the questions that I meant to ask earlier was when you said you left, I can't remember the exact terms, like you worked your way out or something. Like, did you actually create like a support plan? Did you save a certain amount of money? Did you, move and minimize your costs? Like how, because I think people have this perception that you just leap. And That is not true. Very few people can actually leap into something new. So I'd just love to hear your story.
Yeah. So it's that classic expat in Australia thing. I had to hang on because I had to get my permanent residency. So I knew I couldn't go anywhere till that came through. I had this moment where I felt like I hit this peak where I had a panic attack. And I was just like, I was so burnt out. So naturally, I took myself to India for a couple of weeks.
Oh, so good.
And I was like, okay, I need to hatch a plan. So one of the first things I did was I looked at what I call the money blueprint, and I built my freedom fund. And this is a process that I do with clients: is how do we actually create your freedom fund? And I set that up so that I knew that I could walk away from work for a set period of time, and I knew what I could live on, that it wasn't too uncomfortable, and that my nervous system wasn't going to freak out, which was going to allow me to stay in an expanded awareness to explore what was next. So I did the practical stuff. But on top of that, I challenged myself. I posed myself the question around, how could this all be different? Like, what do I need to unlearn? What if? And I also made a really conscious effort to surround myself and seek out examples that were absolutely different to the corporate successful consulting life that I was living. And I remember being down at Barangaroo in Sydney, and I was meeting a girlfriend, and I had, left my career for a few months at this point, and I hadn't yet really nailed what I was going to do next. And she had just got this like big jump up to like this next big salary band, next big job title. And I was that age where like all my friends were doing that, and I was due one of those. But rather than having that big jump, I decided to exit the system. And of course, in those moments, the head jumps in and says, have you made the right decision? Was this sensible? Are you making life harder than it needs to be? Should you be on that course? Blah, 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 blah. And I recognized that I needed to be around people who weren't following that course. The community you put around you to just provide different perspectives is really, really fundamental.
Wow, I love that. Yeah, because I think, I feel like people don't really think about it. They don't really think it through. They don't think about the process. Like, I love the Freedom Fund. I think that's really important, especially for like non-sacral beings, because at the end of the day, if you're leaving corporate, the last thing you want to do is have to like double down and put extra energy in to just get things across the line, right? And I love what you said about that awareness of, oh, these are my people. If I want to create a new life over here, I need to find other people, to surround myself with. I mean, yes, you're a line 4, so that's big for you too. But I just think that that's very, like, for everybody. It's normalizing the conversation of the life that you want to create instead of making it something weird and, can I even attain it?
Yeah. And it's understanding that if all of your programming, if your whole blueprint around work, success, and money has until this point been tied to you working for someone, you receiving a monthly payment of a very similar amount of money every month, this whole structure is that you really can't perceive truly another option. You might see people on Instagram, you might know of people, but you really have to change that blueprint. And to me, that's the bit that people miss, is they jump over, they go from, I'd like to quit, leave my job, change my career. They jump into, what skills do I have? What experience do I have? What could people need? What is a so-and-so process to build a business? Oh, I can do a coaching course. Someone says I can earn 10K a month. Or I'll go into crypto. Or they jump here and they miss out the whole piece in between, which is going, what is my blueprint? And I need to change it, because otherwise what happens is, imagine you've got a blueprint for a house. If you take that same blueprint and you go over here and build a house, you're going to end up with a very similar thing, because you're just following plans. It might look fractionally different, but you get the same thing, just perhaps calling yourself an entrepreneur. Or if you really want something different, and this is where, the sustainability piece, and this is a lot of what I do, it's about success on your terms, owning what you want, finding your potential, but it's also like something that works for your energy type. Not just, otherwise you see a lot of people take the thing they did in corporate and then go do something similar, and work just as hard, if not more, and they're more stressed because they're responsible for revenue. That was never the goal. Like, you wanted
Yeah.
more time with your family, you wanted more time with friends, and you know, less stress, as well as feeling successful. So there's things that people miss out.
Yeah, I love that. And it's so important. I think one of the things that I often see is, you know, it's so glamorized to have your own business. However, the truth of having your own business is when you work for someone else, all the responsibility is on someone else's shoulders, you know. Then when you work for yourself, it's all on you. Which is why having your own business is like the ultimate personal development journey, because you have to clean that stuff up.
Yeah.
But yeah, I love that.
Yeah. And I mean, at the end of the day, I think if you're going to do it, you're going to be someone who values the freedom, and you're going to be someone who values the opportunity to create something really individual. And I feel like everything we saw with COVID, with remote working, it wasn't really about flexibility. It was around people going, I've suddenly got this little bit of my career that I get to individualize, because I get to choose
Yeah.
where I sit with my computer. You know, that's all it is. But I get to choose where I sit, and I create a bit more time in the morning, which means that I can drop my kids off, or I might better fit Pilates in. It's a tiny bit of individualization. But I really think that the direction that we're going in with 2027, that appetite is going to grow and grow and grow. And so there's a lot of reimagining I think we're going to see over the next few years around careers and work, because a lot of it's so outdated for where
Yeah.
we are and where we're
I
going.
totally agree. And I even think in the entrepreneurial space it is. Like, we've talked about this a lot in my community, but also just with my friends. Like, there's all this talk about, you know, go out, like, quit your job and become an entrepreneur, and then be the face of the business and do all the things. Like, the reimagining has to be bigger than that, be wider than that. I mean, we look at our model, like, Taylor never, ever, ever wanted to be the face of her own business. She never wanted to be, you know, the teacher. Like, nah, but she's still fulfilling the dream. Like, she's running a huge business. So I think that's one of the things that I want everyone to hear, is that it doesn't mean you have to be the solopreneur. It doesn't mean you have to be the face of the business. It doesn't mean any of those things. And human design is so powerful for us to understand, you know, what is going to help us feel good. You know, for me, I'm a manifesting generator, sure, but I'm a split definition. You know, I only have one gate to contribute to the penta. So what does that mean? It means that I am the alpha, I'm the leader, but I sit outside the group, because that's the way my energy is. At the same time, I'm a split definition, so I have to have someone else around to help with my energy. So I really feel like that's where human design is so, so, so helpful. And we just need to trust it. We need to trust that we are designed perfectly. And when we create the work, you know, the career, and we take away this whole job versus being an entrepreneur, like, even get rid of that. Like, what is the work that you want to do? What feels great for you? Because there will always be an opportunity for you to do that, whether it's your face on the door or whether it's you playing a significant role in someone else's business. It's all about finding that alignment piece.
Yeah, it's how you want to move through the world, really, and the impact that you want to have. And I agree with you. It's not work and run a business. There's so many options in between, so many. And I also think we've got a bit stuck around this concept of purpose. Like, I feel like that in itself has become a bit of a dogma. You know, there's so many people who are searching for their purpose. And, you know, I sort of talk about this, like, you know, 4P pathway, where you sort of follow your passion. You know, that opens up your potential. Then you see profit, and you will end up on purpose.
Yeah.
You absolutely will, but you don't have to think your way there. You just follow your design, you follow your passions, and your purpose will pop out the other end, and you'll be like, oh, I'm doing meaningful work. I'm having an impact.
Exactly. And I often think, like, one of the big things for me around purpose is often you're on purpose, you just don't realize it because you're at the challenging bit where you're learning. You know, you're at that challenging end of it where you are changing and evolving, but that is part of your purpose. That's the whole point, because on some level you're going through this experience. So on some level it's going to impact someone else. So yeah, I think with purpose, and I used to do the old school purpose models all the time, and people would end up with a perfect little sentence, for
Mm.
me personally, it never sat, like it just never felt like that's my purpose. And for
Mm.
me now, like every day I wake up, I'm like, I am on purpose. I'm doing what I'm here to do. And if someone asks me what my purpose is, it will be a different variation of the theme every time someone asks me. It's not this one set in stone thing. I mean, I do have a wide open G center,
Mm.
but I know I'm on purpose when I'm, sharing the things in the world that I'm here to share. I know I'm on purpose when I'm helping clients. I know I'm on purpose when I'm getting to meet incredible humans that are also having an impact in the world. Like, it's not one thing. It's who you're being every day is
Mm.
your purpose.
Oh, completely. And the other thing I'd really say, and I'm just thinking about it now, is that I think when we're fearful about how to do something, we do look to people who've done it. We look for a model. We look for, a proven approach or method or something else. And the danger in that is that you do not tune into your true self, and
Yeah.
you don't follow your design. And to give you really tangible examples, like I've been learning this so much the last year, how important my line 4 is in my client acquisition. Like
Mm.
literally last week. I mean, so, with a line 4, everyone comes through my network. It's community. It's like this easeful, I'm not even selling and I get clients. I'm laying on the couch last week because my Ross River virus was totally flared up. Like my knees were sore. I was knackered. I'm lying on my back, having a chat with a friend's ex-girlfriend who just popped out of nowhere and then I signed her as a client. And
Yeah.
I wasn't selling her anything. I wasn't trying to sell her anything.
Yeah.
And I have loads of examples of that. Like, you came through my network, just through getting to know you. Like, it's
Yeah.
incredible if you do follow your design, like you really surrender to it. It does make a huge difference.
Yeah, and I think that's the key, like just really surrendering to it. At some point, you need to choose to trust your authenticity, and once you do that, then it gives the universe space to bring more and more opportunities for you. So, Michelle, how can people work with you? I know you really help people around career and purpose. How can people work with you, and where can they find you?
Yeah, absolutely. So, there's a few ways to work with me. I am building a collective where I'm starting to bring together a community of people who are really going on this process. You want to have a concentrated effort, 6 months to exit their career and really update their whole blueprint. You can also work with me one-on-one. That's also an option. And then also, I do have something really fun that I've now given to Taylor for the show notes, but I've created a hypnosis track for each type to decondition the kind of the core conditioning you see in each of the types. So
Mm,
they are, if you want a little flavor of hypnosis, you also want to be able to sort of live your design without having to really think about it, and have that hypnotic support. They're there. And at the moment, if you want to come on and have a planning call with me, I don't usually offer those with that, but there is an option. So and you can find me, it's in the show notes, but you can find me Michelle Boyde _hypnotist, or my website is michelleboyde.com. Just remember, I have an E on Boyd, because everybody
mm.
misses that off.
Well, you know what? You know how much I love you. You are epic, and I could listen to your voice forever and ever. Um, I remember the first time you led a session on our Byron retreat. Could have even been our first ever Byron retreat.
It
And
was.
I'm like, and so it's very rare for me to go into anything deep when there's a whole group of people. And I remember thinking like I was out for the count. In fact, I seem to remember that I can't remember what the words are that you use, but there's some very specific words that you wake people up with at the end. And when that happened, I like jumped. I was like, oh my God, where did I go? That was crazy. So yeah, I just think that you are the absolute best. You're so good at what you do, and just want to champion the way you have, gone against the conditioning to create a life, to create a business that is in alignment with being a projector, and your constant curiosity and your constant, tweaking and improving and just always just doing a little bit better and just trusting yourself, like you travel all over the world, you do the things, you take the feedback from the universe. For me, you're just, one of those humans that's just the real deal. So thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me on. It's an absolute pleasure. I'm so excited we got to do this. So,
yeah, I know. Finally, we got it worked out.
We did.
So thank you everyone for being here with us today. I trust you got what you needed from today's episode, and I so look forward to having you on the next one. Bye for now.
Thanks everyone for being here all the way to the end of the podcast. I hope you got lots of value out of it. I certainly had a lot of fun doing it. Could I please ask that you share this podcast with friends if you found it valuable? And also, bonus points, could you leave a review for me as well on Apple? It would be greatly appreciated. If at any point you would like to be on the podcast or you've got questions that you'd like me to discuss on the podcast, by all means get on my socials and DM me. Everything you need is there in the show notes. Have an awesome day. Bye for now.